Fire Emblem Thracia 776 contrasts its predecessor in a lot of ways. While Genealogy of the Holy War was a sweeping epic that spanned the entire continent, Thracia narrows its lens to a single region and its struggle against the Empire. Where Genealogy was concerned with noble bloodlines and the ambitions of those within that social structure, Thracia focuses on the marginalized and those caught in the wake of those very same grand ambitions. Instead of playing as a divinely blessed army liberating a continent, you're leading a ragtag resistance scraping by against impossible odds. This change shifts the game's entire thematic identity. One of the most striking contrasts between the two titles lies in how they treat the legacy of the Crusaders. In Genealogy of the Holy War, your party is stacked with the direct descendants of legendary figures, each bearing holy blood and often wielding the sacred weapon of their ancestors. These characters are both powerful in battle and revered by the world around them. Villagers would hail you as Crusaders, as the great man Seliph would free the continent and exonerate his family name. This is further highlighted by the storyline of the substitutes. If certain characters die or are not paired, you're left with their replacements, characters who are explicitly less powerful and socially less important. These units lack holy blood, have significantly worse stats, get nothing from the first generation, and carry little narrative significance. Many of them express self-doubt, carry insecurities, and are treated as lesser by others in the universe. There are also many characters who visually resemble the Crusaders. Bridget, Levin, and Shannam are all party members in FE4 who look just like the Crusaders. I think this is meant to show that their legacies live on through their descendants. Even if the Crusaders themselves are gone, their spirits live on. In a lot of ways, Thracia rejects this model. Although the Crusaders are still respected and their memory still honored by the people, your army is composed mostly of characters with no blood ties to them. Even the protagonist, Leif, is a subversion. While he has holy blood, he cannot wield the Lance Gable. As well, much of the narrative focuses on his struggles and failures, rather than his destiny as Neron's descendant. If Seliph is the golden boy anointed by fate, Leif is the underdog, desperately trying to live up to expectations he can hardly meet. And yet, Thracia doesn't diminish the Crusaders' legacy. Rather, it reinterprets it. The game stays true to the Crusaders' origin story, that they were ordinary warriors chosen by dragons because of their bravery. They earned their titles through action, not birth. In this way, the spirit of the Crusaders lives on in the cast of Thracia 776. There are several characters in FE5 who are direct callbacks to specific Crusaders despite being of common birth. Before I get into it, this is the part where I beg you to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps a lot and I really appreciate it. Sorry for taking so long to upload this, by the way. I've been wrapped up in other things, but the blood pact that I've made with Shozo Kaga means I can never truly escape Fire Emblem. Some of the most direct connections to the Crusaders come in the form of characters who visually and narratively echo them without actually being related. Dean and Edda are prime examples. Both are Wyvern riders in the service of Thracia, and their designs bear a striking resemblance to Dane and Yoren. Their character designs and roles were deliberately chosen to evoke these figures, but they're not descendants. They don't wield sacred weapons or claim holy blood. They merely reflect the legacy of those warriors by fighting with similar valor and conviction. I think it's in part meant to show that being a mirror of a Crusader doesn't necessitate blood ties. Another interesting case is Shroff, the priest of Baragi. The parallels aren't directly called to like with Dean and Edda, but they're still apparent. He looks nearly identical to the one depiction of Bragi we've seen, and his role as a quiet, devout man who seeks to spread Bragi's teachings in a war-torn land echoes Bragi's own role. Together, these characters reinforce one of Thracia's central messages, that the spirit of the Crusaders lives on, not through bloodlines, but through action and conviction. Whether through deliberate homage or subtle parallels, the game pays tribute to its mythology while firmly rooting its heroism in the present. In doing so, it honors the idea that greatness can emerge regardless of lineage. A more ambiguous case is presented with Reinhardt. Similarly to the previous characters discussed, he looks just like one of the Crusaders, this time being Thrud. These parallels are furthered by his combat prowess and military achievements, rising to the top of Phrygia's army despite not being a noble. However, Reinhardt does not match the Crusaders in their righteousness and bravery. Reinhardt's defeat comes when he is unwilling to betray Phrygia and so is killed by Leif's army. Had he been able to make a difficult decision in the service of the greater good, he would have lived and been a hero. His downfall is a result of having everything that makes someone a Crusader except the qualities that matter most. For all the strengths he had, he lacked courage. Following up on this, we have Shannam. It's very debatable whether or not he should even be brought up in this discussion. He's not meant to look like Ode per se, he's meant to look like Shannam. His whole gimmick is being comedic relief and a reference to a secret event from FE4. He pretends to be Shannam to gain esteem, yet is comically bad as a unit. I would argue though that he's still congruent with what I've been talking about. He fits the bill as an echo of a Crusader in that he looks just like Ode, but he never actually gets the acclaim he wants because that's where the similarities end. He's a lazy con man, and as such, the narrative doesn't treat him with nearly the same respect as many other characters. Even characters who are morally bankrupt seem to be more respected by the story by virtue of them having some form of principles. Similarly to Reinhardt, Shannam has some elements of a makeshift Crusader, yet differs in the most important ways, and as such isn't on the same level as Dean, Edda, and Shroff. There is one character you get in FE5 who has major holy blood and a legendary weapon, and that's Ced. However, he joins right at the end of the game, after Leif has liberated most of Thracia. When they reunite at Manster, Leif expresses his admiration for Ced and says he can never live up to him and Seliph. Ced counters this though and says that Leif has already fashioned himself a Crusader. Here, the themes I'm trying to highlight in this video are stated plainly. Leif seems to think of Ced as an unstoppable force, when in reality it's Ced who looks up to Leif. We see that even having Major Holy Blood in a Crusader's weapon didn't put Ced or Seliph above Leif. In the end, Fire Emblem Thracia 776 doesn't discard Yu-Gi-Oh's past, rather it redefines its modern applications. It understands that greatness should not be confined to bloodlines or titles. By shifting the focus from divine inheritance to earned merit, the game broadens the definition of what it means to be a hero. The characters of Thracia are not mythologized warriors descended from legends, they're everyday people who rise to the occasion. Some reflect the appearance and spirit of old Crusaders, others defy those legacies entirely, but all of them prove, in their own way, that courage and integrity are what truly define a Crusader.